Here we are, time to do a quick update. I'm not going to have Michelle shoot it this time. This is just a short little thing to get you acquainted more with the 54 Caddy, but for now, let's just look at a couple other things we got on the chopping block. Nice pile of projects. We're just about wrapped up with this guy. We found a little rust in the floorboard, so I'm going to do a repair to that. But this should be wrapped up and for sale soon. Of course, we'll do it after we get dyno numbers. She's projected for the 800 to 900 horsepower range, but we'll see what it actually does. Okay, back to my cars. Here we are, the 54. Now this is just a bone stock 91 Firebird 305 TPI bone stock. I took it apart, put new gaskets on it, and put it back together. I didn't even change the bearings in the thing. As a cheap, I believe I spent $563 on the twin turbo kit, which is just the headers. You see down there, we got a wastegate and the turbo itself. Times 2. Now, if you just bolt this kit on, let me step back a little bit. You'll see that the driver's side turbo is a little farther away and the passenger side is a little closer. It's actually pretty drastic, but that was even more drastic when the kit just came. What I did was took the manifolds where the flange is and cut a 45-degree angle, leaning everything towards the passenger side. And I put the driver's side a little closer and the passenger side a little bit farther away, so it looks a little bit more symmetrical at first glance. But it's still, like I say, it's pretty drastic. It needs custom headers for it to be right, spot on, but I don't know that we'll ever do that on this car. We're running the Mega Squirt. I believe it's the 2.5. Yeah, and there was really nothing to that. My tuner was fairly good at building the chipboard and whatnot, so he got the kit, which I think costed me like $450, and I spent about $75 on the wiring harness, $100 in plugs or whatnot. It was fairly cheap, about $700 to get the whole fuel injection system going. Now, as far as that goes, this fuel injection system was actually in my Tuneport injected Suburban, which was down at the time when I built this car. So what I did was just bought a new Mega Squirt 2.5, and I put it in the Suburban, and then I took the one that was out of the Suburban, put in this car, and we just did some mild tuning and had it back on the road with no issues. My tuner guy wasn't the best, so I ended up finding another pair of tuner guys, and they were spot on. So this thing's pretty dialed in right now at 12.5 pounds. There is no ring gap, zero. Like I said, I only pulled the engine apart far enough to change seals, so it has new head gaskets and all the other bullshit on it. It has, you see I have a drip tray down there, which looks like I skidded a little far forward, but anyway, it has a fitting in the back of this engine that has leaked since day one right here where my oil fill goes into the engine at. You can't see it. It's a real pain in the ass to get to, so I've just decided not to deal with it until I get farther into things, which this vehicle has a built 406 right here, which was built for a twin turbo application. Let me see here if we can get back into the pan. You see we got oil drains on both sides. I actually built that to stuff in the truck. I was thinking twin turbo small block just to have fun, but the truck's more of a work truck, tow truck type thing, so big torque right now is a good issue. And not really an issue, but it's what I need. It's always had ladders on top of it and whatnot, so it's been a work truck. You see I've bobbed the fenders off on it. I've done some other things to it. It's a cool little truck. I bought it for the engine that was in it, and it was supposed to be a 454. Turned out it's 396, yada yada. But the truck just ran too good, so I didn't scrap it. Now let's get back to the 406. It still needs to be finished. It had a fairly mild cam. It was still pretty lopey, but I took it out and gave it to my kid's friend. So it needs a cam in there, which I'll figure out what I want to stuff in it. I want something nasty and choppy, so I'll take care of that. But my tuners have recently acquired a dyno, so they have a chassis dyno in their garage, and we're going to slap this thing on there and see what it does as is. The plan is to yank this engine out completely fully running. I'm obviously going to use the intake and whatever, just put it back together the way it is. I have some 88-pound injectors. I'm going to bump it all up. Right now we're at 42-pound injectors. But this 305 is going to be a giveaway setup. I'm going to have a turbo setup for it and all that. I'll probably, I don't know how it goes. I'll probably end up, when the actual giveaway happens, I'll probably end up sending it out with fresh turbos. And I'll probably honestly just buy this exact turbo kit that I have here, and I might modify I don't know what I'll do as far as the headers go. It's going to be sent out as a twin turbo engine. I'm not sure exactly what we'll do. The person that wins it might have some say in header style too, so we'll see. Because if this type of header doesn't work optimal and somebody's right, it does no good to send them with it. So I'll figure all that stuff out when the time comes. But, I mean, I don't know what else we could give you guys for the basic rundown. It has a junkyard, literally a junkyard. I did nothing to it. I pulled the pan, I changed the filter, and then I obviously put a new filter and gasket on it and filled her up. And we haven't had any issues, but it's just a junkyard 400. It has 50s. Let me see here if you can. Yeah, I don't know that we can see it down there right now, but we still have. It's way over there. We still have 50 style brakes. So the master cylinder fill is up here, which I don't use that. I don't have that hooked up. It needs to be changed, which I'm going to go to one of those hydraulic style brake systems that has the little plastic reservoirs, remote reservoirs. I'll figure that out. It's a pedal system actually, but that's the plan. And we have a bone stock 54 rear end underneath of it, and it's actually a posi, but right now we're having an issue with the U-joints not sticking together. So this thing has launch control on it, anti-lag, whatever you want to call it. It's referred to as anti-lag in the Mega Squirt system, but it's pretty nasty, and this thing has no problem lighting up both tires and shipping itself sideways. It's actually pretty funny to see this thing move with that little 305 in it with the turbos on it, because it's nasty. But for now, yeah. Today I'm going to fire it up. We'll warm it up. You see, I'm the founder of a local Cadillac club. We're going to call ourselves the Villains. I just started it, I don't know, it's been about a year or so. We have a lot of people in it. We haven't really done much. We just got plaques made this last fall. So that's something. This one's not even polished, and this is a prototype. So the rest of them look a little different, and they're actually up at my buddy's house so we can polish them, because we just made them out of stainless steel. And I believe this version might just be mild still. I don't think that we went with the stainless steel on this one just yet. So I'm not sure yet. I'll see how that goes. But for this car, that's all I really need, is to have that look. It matches the rat rod style. Now, as far as the car goes, we need to shoot it. I want to shoot it with a clear coat. And I think I'm going to slap a little white metal flake in with it. Now the roof, we're doing some body work to it. I am here. So it had a couple dents in it, but we're doing a little hammer and filing, and it's pretty much getting there. We have a little dent in the center back here, you can see, that I have to get worked out. And then we have this side over here, which I need to get that cleaned up. It's been sat outside a couple times. But we have a little dent right here still. We need to work out of there, but we'll get it out. Now, hammer, dolly, and file work is a little, I mean, it's tricky. You don't want to just jump into it. And a lot of the metal shaping happens from the heat of the file. But we just have to, we'll get into all that stuff at a later date. Like to try to build cars without mud. I'm not 100% there, so I still have to use mud on mine, but my dad's a wizard, and he's kind of slowly been showing me the trade of, he's good with just hammer welding with gas and acetylene, or excuse me, gas and oxygen. But yeah, it's something I'm not quite skilled at yet. This car is fairly clean as far as, I mean, you see the surface rust, which cleans up easily. This side's fairly clean. I'll pull this thing out so we can take a look at it. This door is a little rough. It's actually one of the rougher things of the car. Now, if you can see back here, we also have a stereo in here, and it's a complete stereo system. The only thing is I believe the head unit is cheap and it's starting to fail. So the signals, I believe that's the issue. The signal's getting weird and it just sounds weird, kind of tunnely. So the deck needs to be changed. The whole thing needs to be reworked. But we got Fosgate 8s and highs all the way around. I just wanted to buy a stupid expensive. I have a couple other Fosgate systems, but this one, my green caddy has one in it, but this one I just went and bought a new one just because it's a little bit more drastic than my other Fosgate system. But, and you see how dusty all this is back here, getting covered in rust dust. I'll turn it on for the base heads. We have 415s, T1s, because when I went to purchase, they said that the T2s were discontinued. There's a lot of shit I want to change, though. The batteries are a little weak for me. And I think that's another issue, is we're starting to have voltage drop. Now, the box is just a huge turd. I built it into the car just to be ridiculous and see how it sounded, which it sounds great for a while, and then, like I say, recently it just didn't start sounding as well anymore. So I need to see what we're looking at here. But the car is in bad shape now. So I'm gonna have to take this trunk lid off and rework it. But I think the first thing I'm going to do is pull this speaker box out, and I'm gonna put for the guys that don't know, it's a ported fourth order, so it'll have the speakers in a box in the trunk, but all the sound will actually go into the cab. So it's going to help eliminate a lot of the rattling and whatnot. I did not wrap or put sound deadener on the trunk itself because I wanted to do some work to it. I want to weld this corner up here where it's all rotten and it's been rattling itself to death lately. So I've been blowing that apart with the speaker system. That wasn't that bad to begin with, but it's completely all come apart now. The bottom lip is missing. It's probably in here if we look for it. But the whole thing is deadened back up around here, but we'll get to this. Okay, it has a stereo system in it nonetheless. I'll do a video for the bass heads here in a few minutes. Okay, on up here. Now, the gas tank itself is the original tank. I did some rust repair on it, removal and repair, I would say, when I first got it. And it's kind of been a pain in the ass. It's one of those things that plugs the fuel filter prior to the pre-pump filter every. When I first did it, it was at least twice a week. I was driving the shit out of this thing. I built this thing about 4 years ago, and I mean, that first year and a half, 2 years, I drove it every day almost, except when it was freezing out. Um, and it's been reliable. It has some rust issues in the floor, and you can see this seal cover here is shot. The seal itself isn't that bad, but the cover is shot. You see there, the floor's got some issues. This is a sump, a fuel tank sump that I bought because I'm going to put a new fuel tank in it. That's the moral of that fuel tank story I was telling. We have 81 Sedan DeVille, or actually, nope, these are Coupe DeVille seats. They lean forward. These are just straight up out of the junkyard. I believe they were 81. But these just came out of the junkyard, and here they are. I just slapped them in. That one's shit. Needs to be out. They all need to come out of here. I had the original seats for it, but they were in rough shape. And of course, when I moved from my old spot, there's a bunch of stuff I just hauled to the garbage, and that was one of them. This thing will probably... Now that after I've done it, I regret it because I want the back seat fits in there a little better. The front seats don't really matter, but I want more of a bucket arrangement for the front, so I'll probably go with something classic. Something from the, maybe if I can find a late 50s T-Bird or something. I'll figure it out. And other than that, I mean, I had, like these parts, I had them all rewrapped. I had the top of the dash pad rewrapped. It's dusty and dirty. This dash down here, I have two dashboards, so don't bitch about the CD player and the dash here. I have one that's uncut and ready to go, but this, I have, yeah, what do you guys think of this too? You like that? I had to at least put the bolt on it, but it's only on there just halfway. I don't want to strip the thread out. But that's, whatever. Those are small bullshit details. He needs the fucking steering wheel bolt or nut. The bolt's there, obviously. Now I got the headlights hooked up to a stupid switch, headlights and taillights for now. This thing isn't really wired. It has some wiring in it for the fuel injection and headlights, and that's about it. I have a little handful of relays and a few fuses. And that's about it. And I need to actually tighten things up on it. It's about time. This thing was a 30-day build. I pulled it out of the field. My friend had it, so I pulled it out of his field. Prior to that, we have a buddy that was running a junkyard, and he had picked this up with another one. So that's where we acquired it originally. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, it was pretty basic when I built it. Rebuilt the brakes. I did a couple tiny little things in here. I had to adjust the floor or the floor pan here at the tranny tunnel because the 400 was obviously bigger than the whatever it is. I believe it's a 400 in the original setup, but I'm not certain on that. Nonetheless, this car had no engine and tranny in it when I got it. It was missing a front brake drum, so that's about all I had to do. I just rebuilt the master cylinder and all the brakes, put new wheel cylinders on, yada yada, new brake hardware. And it did good for a while, but they're starting to get to where they're soft and just gross. Like I say, they're 50s style technology, and for the power this thing has, it needs good brakes because it boogies. But it just never really, I don't know, who needs to stop? I mean, and all the garnish moldings and everything are all original. I just did a little patina painting on a lot of stuff. Some of it I didn't. I don't think that one I did as much as this. And now that I've been driving it, the patina's even gotten better. But I painted these with a couple separate colors and did some sanding on them, yada yada. They already had lacquer checking and whatnot in them to begin with, and I just painted over that. But the clear coat and whatnot's starting to wear off, it looks like. Maybe it could use a little bit more on there, but I'll get to all that stuff. Now let's see, where are we at in here? I'm not so happy with that shifter. I don't remember the style of it, but my mega shifter, when I actually hooked up I had the anti-lag hooked up to a button that was just kind of free floating in here for a little bit. So I ended up getting a button on my shifter, but on my other one, the shifter head was a little loose, and I didn't remember, but at some point in time I JB welded it, so when I spun it off of there, it just broke the threads off of the top of the shifter too, so I had to swap that out. So keep that in mind. Maybe just pack it full of tape or something. Don't JB weld it. It'll never come back apart. But if that's your goal, it's perfect. Now we have an original gas pedal, or excuse me, original brake pedal. And I used, I'd say a mid-80s square body gas pedal in here. And I welded a stupid little block on the floor and yada yada, made it. It's just kind of in there. That screw keeps it from moving or something. I forget what the fuck I have that screw there for, but hot rod style shit. Okay, I don't know what else we could go over. We got air fuel ratio and boost. Other than that, none of the gauges work. Who the fuck needs anything else? Oh, I guess these gauges down here. I forget about my oil pressure and my temperature because it runs well and I never have to check them. I've been lucky there, but if you see, the one that I've been checking is my voltage. So, yeah, it is what it is. I'll get that dialed in. I just think I need to step up to like the MechMan style alternator. So I might take the alternator out of here and send it in and have it built as high as I can as far as the amperage goes. And then we'll go from there. It needs some different battery setup. It's got a huge stereo in here. But let's see here. Nothing really else to go over in here. We need to do the headliner, but I have the headliner out so we can do the rough work. As soon as I have the rough reworked, I'm going to do a lowrider pattern style paint job on it. Now this car has the nickname of Against the Grain. So, because it's something that's against everybody's traditional thoughts of the rat rod or whatever, the Cadillac, everything. It goes against everything for them. And I just used mid-80s appliance. They're in bad shape too. Mid-80s appliance, but they're perfect patina for this. These came off a 91 Fleetwood. And look how rusty those fuckers are. But they're perfect for this thing. Bam. And this car was actually, like I say, it's in fairly good shape. And other than, you see this little nasty rocker right there, and we have the same thing going, or not rocker, but the back of the quarter, front and back. The rocker itself, I believe, is pretty solid. I haven't started digging on it. We have surface rust. I'm sure it's going to be soft somewhere. We'll see. It might get soft back there, but it's fairly solid car, nice and complete. The 54 is a single year body. The 55 and 6, their bodies come out a little bit here, which I'll show you. I happen to have a 56 as well. But I mean, this thing's perfect how it is. We got a through bullet hole shot on the windows. They're staying just how they are. We got our drip rails, which aren't aren't functionable. I forget what's holding this up. I need to get back in because it's supposed to close. Our little spring mechanism right here is going to need to be reworked, so I'll get all that figured out. Looks like it's just not connected up here. I'll figure it out. But that is supposed to close the drip rail when the door closes. This side's in bad shape with this, but I'll figure that stuff out when the time comes. All the chrome for around the window here is in fairly good shape. Here's my steering wheel ring, my center ring. I didn't want to put it on the car and have something happen to it until it was actually completely installed with the proper hardware, which I have a little bit of hardware for it, but I do not believe it's all of it. And then here's a lot of my other trim. This one's got a dent in it, but it's in pretty good shape. So for the car it is, the rat rod it is, I believe that I wasn't disappointed in any of the trim. It's good enough to run on here. So and there's one of my fender skirt trim right there. I have some inner door panel trim and whatnot down there as well. And there's other shit there. I don't know. Those look like 70s parts. 65 or 6. Yeah, there's some sun visors for the 54. Now we have the hood is up on top of my 65 drop. The radiator I chose to run. Now when I did this, they only had 3 sizes. Excuse me, I'm a little sick. This is an Eastwood, and they were, I believe, called the triple flow. It has a triple pass or whatever. You see where it comes in here, drops down, and then it'll flow over, drop down another level, and then fill that side up, and then flow back in. That's why it's called the triple pass. This is just I think a mid-90s. It's a junkyard part. It was broken even, you see. A junkyard tranny cooler. Did I use... Yeah, I didn't even get a tranny cooler in the radiator. It's just straight coolant. So that's why I did that. And the caddies are cool because they're all ducted. They have all this metal work that closes it in. It's the same thing under the hood, so it directs flow through the radiator, which is cool. I'm sure mine's a little loose. It could probably use a seal here or there, but I don't run the hood because the car doesn't really present itself the same. I mean, it's a cool car nonetheless, but you can't see from a block away that the engine's a little different. And you can with the hood off. And we also had an issue with the hood latch. If you see, we have this stupid bungee cord down there. At I'd say 100 miles an hour, the hood wants to do some flying of its own. And it kind of does it differently because of how the hood opens. So it makes it a little scary. You don't need that happening. But I've also bought parts to tighten up the hood latch and shit like that. I just haven't done it. Like I said, we have some original wiring here. I think there's all the original wiring out of the car I yanked out. I think we just have some here or there. And you can see all the wiring that I have. That's my wire harness. This goes in there. I have a couple other things. This is my O2 sensor. And this thing's shot, my windshield wiper motor, so that can actually, it's not even hooked up. We could get that out of there, but eventually I need all that stuff to work. So I think I just kind of, you see in there, we still have heater cores. These are part of the heater systems, the heater fans. I still have a lot of parts in here. And the next time I build this, when I pull this engine out and put the 406 in here, we're going to shave the firewall. I'm going to streamline all this. Because I did nothing like that before. I just wanted to bolt it in and keep everything original until I started figuring out what I was going to do. But you see, I just cut out a little fucking plate right there and mounted that. I forget what that was covering. Something I had to pull off. It's pretty basic. There's the original battery tray. which obviously the battery's in the trunk. There's heater drains. This thing has I believe these are just 2.5 inch down to the 2.5 inch side pipes. The side pipes come out right there, and they're actually getting kind of fucking beat up. We need to get those repaired. But they come across there and shoot up right behind the front wheel. Well, let's see. I don't know what else we could really go over with this thing. Let's fire it up. See, the only issue with this thing is that old rusty tank. Like I say, I need to buy a new one, so it runs out of gas every time I park it in here. It'll empty itself completely out. So hopefully there's enough gas in this can over here. I'll pour it in. We'll see what we can make happen here. Give me a moment. I will set you on my pile of pots, which this is all another project. This is actually another stereo system for the Escalade. And there's other stuff in here. I got Scar stuff to finish off another system, and got some Orion for a different one. But let's get back to this. Hopefully we got you at a good view. Let me figure out what I can do here. Okay, so here we have a little issue. It sounds like that wasn't enough gas to get to the pickup, because this thing is really stupid and the pickup is high. Um, I'd say there's probably 2 or 3 gallons worth of fuel underneath of the pickup. It's really dumb. So at sometimes when this thing has a half of a tank in there, if I'm at full boost, it'll start to run me lean, because that's why I have the fuel sump issue. Or the fuel sump that I'm going to straighten this issue out with, buy a new tank with the sump on it, so we're drawing from the bottom of the back of the tank at all times. which is what I've done on this here. We'll just give you a brief. This thing, we have the floor pan issues, so I haven't installed this pan yet, but you see down here at the bottom, I put a fuel sump. Has fittings on there. Those are not the fittings I'm going to use, but the same thing. They just have a couple fittings down there. It's for an outlet and a return, but for me, I'm going to run my return at an other end of it so it doesn't bubble all, aerate all the fuel, make a bunch of bubbles in there. But okay, for now I need to go get more fuel, and then we'll fire this thing up here in a minute. All right, I am back. We'll see if we can't get these videos chopped together properly. I poured a little bit more fuel in here. Let's see what happens. Since I moved the Escalade out of the way, I have decided maybe we'll take a quick spin in this thing too. But I want you to keep in mind the fuel tank is only half full, so we're going to have that starvation issue. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You're not going to hear much once this thing actually fires up. For now, we'll get it fired up. We'll pull it out of the garage, let it idle for a few minutes. We'll take it for a cruise. I'll walk you around it while it's idling. We'll take it for a cruise and wrap up our video. Just bear with me for a few more minutes. And of course, we have the tail light fuel. Let's see if it'll fire up for us first. I might have to put more fuel in it. Since everything leaks out of it, I don't want to waste that whole can. Well, I'll waste 2 gallons or something, but it'd be nice not to burn up the whole 5 on nothing. Not quite there yet. More fuel. Holy shit. It is what it is. Fucking 4 gallons of gas under the fucking 4 gallons of gas under the input. Or the outlet. Whatever you want to call it. The whole fuel tank design is just stupid to me, but we'll go over that at a later date when we switch this one out. We'll go over it with you. It's just weird to me they have the pickup up in the front of the tank, which isn't that strange, but it's just how high up in the tank it is the strange part. With this car leaning back, it doesn't help.
right. So here we are. I'll walk you around it. We'll take it for a quick drive and then we'll pull it back in here. See my mess of Cadillacs. And it is a mess around here too. But here she is. Here's the rough spot, right here. So no real anti-lag, it's not yet warm. Let's get out of here. Oh, these brakes are spongy, they aren't happy today. Let's do this for a little while longer. hold this phone steady with my fingertips just so I don't get my damn thumbs in the way. And this thing is still on empty. You've got to be shitting me. I just poured in 4 gallons of gas and it's still too empty to drive. All right, so I'm gonna get this back to the house and we'll get back to this in a minute. All right, here we are. It fired right back up when we got pointed downhill. But let me get this dialed in here. Give me a couple more moments. We'll pour another 2 or 3 gallons of gas in here. Just sucks to waste it, but it is what it is. Now you can see why I normally don't record by myself, because I'm not paying very much attention to where the camera's facing, so that's normally why I have Michelle in here with me, but you guys will get the gist of it. Thing has almost no brakes. So it needs some tuning this year before I actually get it out. I haven't driven it much in the last year. we'll go put some more fuel in this thing just so we can actually see what it does. Alright, and it's raining out a little bit now, but as you can see where the fuel starvation problem becomes an issue, we just put 5 gallons of gas in here and we're still starved. We can't barely drive it. I'll get this dealt with. Back on the road again, but as you can see where that's an issue, I only put 5 more gallons in, but at $3.97 a gallon, it just cost us $40 just to get this thing to move around a little bit. But here we are. And see, we still went dead lean as the tank pickup went dry. So this thing literally takes a full tank of gas to drive around happy for a little while, and that's why I want to swap the tanks out. It fucking boogies though. It's a fun car. We can use a little trick where we get on it, let off, and then get back on it so it'll slam the fuel into the front of the tank, but you'll see it'll still starve it if we don't have enough tank or fuel back there. We have there's 12 gallons of gas in there right now, and I just still starved it. And so if that tells you where the fucking pickup is, it's in a bad location in the front of the tank, halfway up in the tank almost. It's literally not half, it's about a quarter of the way up, but it's bullshit. For the 50s with no boost, it's fine. But for 2020s, getting into boost, it's not fine. You see, we're starting to get a little wet on the windshield too. I tell you what we'll do, we'll make a nice pull, but trying to think of where we'll find us a nice spot here. Yeah, fuck it. I'd say the issue with this thing, the problem that makes the issue more drastic is the fact that it's leaning back so hard, and that happens from the weight of the speaker box. We have coilovers back there, but they're not doing it. I'd say that's enough fucking around for today. We're gonna cause us an issue if we keep running it lean like that. But yeah, what a pain in the ass. I don't really drive it too hard when it starts getting E, so it does fine as far as cruising goes. But the ridiculous part about it is, like I say, we have 12 gallons of gas back there, but unless there's 20 gallons of fuel, this thing runs starved because the fuel is always at the back of the tank, and it allows for an air bubble, which is stupid. It wasn't really an issue when this thing was more level leaning, and like I say, now that we're at leaning backwards at 12 pounds, it's kind of pushing it. let's do one more thing here. like I say, sorry for the shitty video. It's absolutely horrible. But this fucking thing's a handful to drive as itself. And then paying attention to everything in this piece of shit, it's definitely not a good recording car. But you guys got the gist of it. We have a huge issue and we have to straighten it out. One more. And you see, for some reason we're running a little rich. So the anti-lag isn't kicking in exactly how it should. This thing needs to be gone over as far as the tune goes. That fucking fuel tank issue is huge though. We absolutely cannot drive this thing without a full tank of fuel. And like I say, it just cost me 45 bucks to show you guys that. But you kind of sort of get the gist of it as we start to get into it. It's an animal with the tune port injection. It makes it stupid fucking torquey. We're actually probably lucky that it wasn't kicking in full, because this thing with the ground wet, it just breaks the tires loose. So it would have done us no good. We would have been spinning. That probably would have been more fun for you guys. But I promise I'm going to deal with that issue here soon. And we'll take this thing out for a little bit better of a cruise than that. Because that was just enough to show you guys what I have to deal with on this turd. It's a blast to drive. But like I said, it needs a full tank to be good. And then it's only good for about 5 gallons down. And then you have to start refueling it. So to me, that's not worth driving, because I only have fun driving it when it's full, and then I drive it back home slowly. We could listen to stereo and cruise around, but that's not that fun. It is when I have my grandma in the car. She has a certain thing for this car, so we take her cruising in it frequently. I would say it just, like I say, it doesn't make sense for me to drive it too often, because I end up wasting so much in fuel. We just put 40 bucks in there. We probably burned up about $2 worth, $3 worth, and we're going to end up letting the rest of it hit the garage back here. So that's will be a nice evaporation. It'll be nice and smelly out here for a few days. Let's see, I could probably, actually, no, I can't. Because with the relays and whatnot, the pump will not run long enough. I could hook up an auxiliary pump to it and pump the tank dry, but it's not going to be the end of my world. It sucks, but it is what it is. Now, basically, I wanted to throw this video together for a feller named Jack that I said I was going to do a few fucking days ago, I believe. I don't know. It's been a week or better. But we have a 50s custom car that Jack and I were talking about bringing out. It's a 55 T-Bird, and it's my dad's car, and I've been dealing with him on pulling it out for a while, but I just want to give Jack a little picture here at the end of the video. And yeah, we'll go from there. Like, share, and subscribe.